QCSportsInferno.com presents another Monday edition of ZRadio with Mike Ackerman. I'm Corey Schrader. Give us a call at 309-524-5558. Huge sports weekend for everybody. If you're a Buckeye, Bears fan, Cubs fan, not so much if you're a Packers fan.
Oh, that broke my heart.
But it was a good weekend.
Yeah, the Packers losing just completely broke my heart.
Yeah, I was saddened by that news that they lost. I felt bad.
You know, especially to the Lions. That made it feel even better since the Bears lost to the Lions. And actually, the Bears gave the Lions I should say the Bears should have won against the Lions. The Packers should have lost by more.
Yeah, no, the Bears should have won that game. The Bears should have won the Minnesota game. There was a lot of games. The Bears should be tied for first right now.
The Bears should be what are they 4-5? The Bears should be 5-4 or 6-3.
Yeah, 6-3, I would say.
I mean, at minimum, they should have won Detroit. Minimum.
Well, they should have beat the Vikings too.
They should have, but the Detroit game was all. The Detroit game was all John Fox, and John Fox being an old school coach, and just wanting to put the game in the hands of the defense, which isn't put the game in type of defense.
Well, no, but I can't rag on them too much because the Bears are actually respectable.
Oh, I agree.
Something that no way. Well, I thought they would be better, but now knowing the scope of the rebuild that they want to do, I'm pretty impressed with what they are actually doing.
Absolutely, there's no doubt about that. That they're better than I thought they would be. They're probably better than almost everybody thought they would be. They're and they've achieved all expectations so far. I didn't think they'd win 4 games all year.
Right.
And to be quite honest, a lot of that goes towards Jay Cutler these last few games. Is my thoughts on Jay Cutler? A lot of this goes towards Jay Cutler. Yesterday was probably the best game he's played in a long time.
Well, as far as the quarterback rating, that was his best game.
You know what? I couldn't even have told you that. I had no idea that. All I know is the two previous games they had won, he had brought him back in the fourth quarter, but he also had bad turnovers to help get them down. So he's the one who helped make them he's the one who put them in the hole to begin with, and now it's a matter of like yesterday, he had nothing to do. He didn't have to bring him back because he didn't make a mistake to begin with. So that's why, to me, it was his best game. I'm not saying he threw the ball any better or whatever. He missed some passes like everybody's going to miss, but he didn't make the big mistake that he always makes.
Well, no, I mean, if you go off, and I'm not a big fan of the quarterback rating system. I like a lot of the stats that Troy Aikman uses, that he's come up with, as much as I hate to say that. But a lot of his stats make sense. But for the QB rating, he had the darn near perfect quarterback rating this weekend.
I would have thought so, too. I mean, I thought he was really good. Now I'd like to know a little bit. I haven't even seen the question asked in the last couple of weeks now. How far along is Kevin White?
Yeah, and really winning and playing good football kind of allows you not to really question it because, look, I put bigger expectations on the Bears than most. I think I was more excited that we finally had adults in the coaching room. And, now that they're playing up to, better than what they were supposed to, that question for White is out the window. I mean, right now, but
it's not for me because it's not for me because they're still not going to make the playoffs. I don't think. Well, I would say there's a 95% chance they're not going to make the playoffs. But if they're playing meaningful games in December, they put themselves in a spot, especially now with Manning being out this weekend too. They've put themselves in where they have a chance to be playing meaningful games because we looked at it a few weeks ago. And I remember coming out of the break, and I remember saying the Bears are going to lose their next 5. Well, no, they've won their next 2. So now, all of a sudden, you got the green, and then the schedule started to ease up after that. Well, now all of a sudden, you've got Denver, who has lost 2 in a row, and Peyton Manning's out. Now, my only fear is this doesn't become a Colin Kaepernick game like the Bears had after Smith went out, and then they had to face Kaepernick in his first start, and then they got killed. That's my only fear for this week.
I don't think so because you look at playing with the Kaepernick situation. You're gearing up for Alex Smith, right? And then they played Kaepernick, and they didn't have much time,
right,
for Kaepernick. And Kaepernick is the total opposite of it.
Yes.
And I think that's how the Bears got burnt.
Yeah.
I think they just got out. They couldn't figure out Kaepernick quick enough. And a lot of teams couldn't, but it's caught up to Kaepernick.
Yeah.
Now, obviously. But, I mean,
but then you win this weekend, and then you head into Green Bay, who Green Bay is now reeling after losing 3 in a row. And do they have Minnesota this week?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they got Minnesota, could be 4 in a row. Then all of a sudden, you go into the following week, the Thanksgiving Day, and that becomes a huge game. I mean, that becomes a huge game because then you're looking at the Bears going over 500 and the soft part of their schedule coming up.
Well, if you look at it, the 2 wild card teams are Green Bay and Atlanta at 6-3. The rest are all tied with the Bears. Now, the Bears lose the tiebreaker over Seattle, but Seattle's bad. And they're going to lose a lot more. But it's weird to say it, and I don't want to get Bears fans or even myself too hyped up, but the Bears are actually a playoff contender right now.
Oh, I think so. I think it's still they put themselves in such a hole.
They're 2 games back.
Right. Are they?
And they play the Packers.
Do I think they're going to make it? No. But are they a contender? Absolutely. And I think that's why, though, I brought up Kevin White is because, whether they need him or not, it's a different story. I think it wouldn't hurt, especially with Eddie Royal out, to give them another option. But that also gives him experience of playing meaningful ball.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's look, the Bears are playing way above and beyond expectations. Each win the Bears get, Jay Cutler survives another year in Chicago. I just think I'm impressed. I'm very impressed with the Bears and what they're doing, and as opposed to what they should be doing, and they should be towards the bottom of the league fighting for that number 1 draft pick.
Yeah. And we had a show, Corey, at one point where we were talking about, after week 2, when we both went up to the game, where we were talking about who the Bears are going to draft, number 1.
Right. And that's not the case. They're not going to be. Now it's come, really, I mean, it's coming down to right now. Now they get Romo back, but you got the Cowboys, the Lions, the Chargers, the Titans, the Ravens, who Mark Trestman is now their offensive coordinator, the Browns. I mean, those are all teams ahead of the Bears.
Right.
So, there's I mean, it looks like in the draft now you're going to be like, okay, it's now defense. I mean, at this point.
Oh, yeah, you still need another
know.
guy who can get to the quarterback.
Right.
And you need another guy who can defend.
That played great the other day, but that should tell you how good coaching is they're playing good 3-4 defense with 4-3 parts right now.
Absolutely. My guy Willie Young came up big yesterday.
He did. Him and Houston, both the last few games. Houston has like 3 sacks in 2 games.
Yeah.
And, these guys were trade bait.
Well, it just goes to show you, though. I mean, what was the reason that Jared Allen was on this team at the beginning of the season? It had nothing to do with he was one of the best 11 players on defense. I can tell you that.
It's money. It all came down to contract. It was money, and then you got it. But Panthers had a need. Panthers had a need. The Bears paid the bulk of his contract. Panthers had a need, and he's staying quiet down there.
Yeah.
I mean, he's serviceable. He knows how to keep the edge, and really, that's all they were looking for because they had the injury.
Right.
And so, I mean, he's working out for them, and Tillman's having another good year.
Right.
But, I mean, they had a need. The Bears, he didn't belong with the Bears.
No, it was
I think
absolutely
at that
insane
point, no one wanted to take him at that point. No one wanted to, because who knows what happens. And he's an aging veteran, so you don't know what's going to happen with the contract and all of that stuff. So, hey,
So here's my question.
I like it.
What's going on with the Packers? What happened to them? Were they playing over their head at the beginning of the season? And they're just and they're coming back to reality? Is the truth somewhere in between the first 5 or 6 games and the last 3 games? What's their deal?
Well, I mean, obviously they're having a bad stretch. They've lost 3 in a row, but I think, honestly, to me, what's caught up to them is the lack of wide receivers.
Yeah, I think so, too. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle.
You look at Randall Cobb. Sure, he's a good speedster, but kind of, sort of. He's Devin Hester that can run routes.
Right.
He's not consistent with his catches. Okay, he can just run the route, and he's fast.
Well, I think people are getting to Rodgers a little bit quicker too.
What's that?
I think because they aren't respecting the receivers as much, they're sending more people at Rodgers, and Rodgers isn't having enough time to throw.
Oh yeah, they missed Jordy Nelson huge,
big time, because
he's the safety blanket.
Well, and these guys that they've got now aren't big guys. They're not guys that if you're under pressure, you can throw the ball high like an Alshon Jeffrey or a Brandon Marshall or a Jordy Nelson. You can throw high.
No, they don't have that wingspan, and you got to also look at it too. They don't know how to run routes that well. If you look at their routes, they're horrible. They're all off page. All of Aaron Rodgers' game is all about timing.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
He doesn't have the bullet arm, And we can go time and time again. He's probably the best quarterback, him and Tom Brady, in the league.
I agree.
But he doesn't have an arm like Cutler where Cutler can hit every throw. He's more Peyton Manning, where it's all timing in the wide receivers' routes.
But I saw him, that last touchdown he threw yesterday, Rodgers, he threw the ball. They had a perfect angle of it. The tight end was cutting down the middle. And before he cut left, there was a linebacker in front and a safety behind to the tight end's left. He threw the ball before the guy even cut and got to the right-hand side of those two. I mean, what a ballsy pass. I mean, the guy hadn't even made his cut yet. He was still completely on the other side of these two guys. And he threw it perfect.
That's all timing. It's all timing.
Absolutely.
And he's not on the same page. I shouldn't say he's not on the same page. I'd say the receivers are not on the same page with Rodgers.
Right.
And that's their problem. And when Rodgers has to kind of question, in the middle of a play, then again, like you said, that gives more time for the defensive line to get to. And the offensive line of the Packers isn't that good anyway.
Right. Well,
So,
and now you don't have Eddie Lacy basically got benched.
Oh yeah, it's a groin injury is what they call it, but
yeah, it's called
a brain injury in my book. Meaning, I don't think he's too bright.
I think it's called I ate too many chicken wings in the off season.
Yeah.
Injury. I had too much pizza. I had too many Big Macs injury.
Yeah, I mean he's not good.
And now you got to go.
Starks
and now you got to
is
go
their best running back.
Yeah, and now you got to go to Minnesota this weekend. Who, Minnesota's like the Iowa Hawkeyes of college or of the NFL. They just keep winning, and nobody wants to give them any respect.
Right. Look, they're division leaders right now. They're winning.
Absolutely.
I mean, you got to give them the respect.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're a fool if you don't.
Yep. Yeah. No, they got a good team, a veteran running back. Am I a fan of Bridgewater? No. But he gets what needs to be done, and that's all you need.
Yeah.
And he's doing it. And boy, I tell you what. Speaking of Bridgewater, after he took that hit from the Rams, boy, the NFL certainly was on the Rams, weren't they?
Say that
all
one more
those
time.
Penalties and
they're
really keeping an eye on them.
They're watching, and really, then the Bears after the game, it was kind of funny because there was an article I read this morning, and it talked about how how they expected the Bears to come out of the locker room after all the talk last week of how dirty the Rams are and this and that and the other thing. They kind of expected the Bears to come out after the game yesterday and say, oh, no, that's all overblown and blah, blah, blah. No, the Bears didn't. The Bears said they're dirty.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they didn't make any bones about it.
No. They did. They did. And then now the Bears. Of course, the Bears are under investigation for not reporting their injuries correctly.
Wow. Gee, shocker.
So Las Vegas could put their numbers out.
Gee, shocker. Which, to me, I think is...
They already called the Rams and said, hey,
yeah,
this guy's not playing, this guy's not suiting up. These two guys haven't even shown up. We're keeping them in Chicago. I mean, they told the Rams, they just didn't tell the NFL, so the NFL could tell all their bookies.
I think that's such an asinine rule, in my opinion.
Yeah.
An asinine rule. Hey, by the way, real quick before we move on, because I see the Texans and Bengals play tonight, and it reminded me to have a player. How's your fantasy team doing this week?
Not too good. It's like my whole... I knew this was going to happen. And
That's not what you said last week.
You know what sucks? You hate Jay Cutler so much. He was your best player on your team almost.
You know what's funny is my wife was laughing her butt off yesterday because she knew that Cutler was the one who was winning it for me, and she knows your man crush on Cutler.
I know. I got burned by Cutler when I made a hasty move when we broke it off for a little bit, and I dropped him from my fantasy team.
You signed them divorce papers too quickly, and that's what happened.
I didn't really sign them. I drafted them.
Yes, you had the lawyer draw them up.
Yeah, they were all drawn up. All I needed was my signature, and I dropped them from the team. Get rid of all contact, and then bam, it frickin' screwed me over.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, I did. Even without him, I still win.
Like my backup running backs were like awesome. I mean, my running back scores weren't too bad. I got a lot of good running backs right here, I gotta say. But
yeah, you had Langford had 33. 33.
Yeah,
McCoy had 15. Sitting on your bench. Yeah. Oh, you got a guy playing tonight too. Yeah, but you had West get 25 and Gurley get 13, so it's not like the only thing you could have done is put Langford into the flex position.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it still wouldn't have been enough.
Right. I had to throw you a bone. You're one of the worst fantasy players this year, so I figured I'd throw you a bone.
Still the champion.
Help you out.
Still the champion. Still
That's
the
what friends
champion.
are for.
Hey, you go ahead?
Before I forget, I want to get on Colin Hurd again, or whatever his name is.
Yes.
He's going on a rant again about Iowa. I don't know what it is that he hates about Iowa.
Well, you know what it is because I think we talked a little bit about it last week. Because he had zero. He had like a zero. His rating was like 0. He had like 90,000 people watching, and I think, excuse me, I saw that another Iowa company was doing a podcast, or something like that. They did it 2 nights in a row, and they said between their 2 podcasts, they had more people listening than what Colin Cowherd did on a national TV show. And what the problem is all the Iowa people keep tweeting his YouTube and blah blah blah. Well, you know what? He keeps getting hit, so he's going to keep. He needs the ratings, so he's going to keep making fun of Iowa because Iowa people keep going on there.
Well, yeah. I mean, but you know what his reasoning was? His new reasoning? He went along the lines again about 5-star players.
Oh, yeah. Did you see that graphic the other night? That they had up? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he kind of went off of, and he's like, well, they just don't pass the eye test. And when they can't get the 4 and 5 stars like these other teams, and it's like, and this is why he needs a second person.
Well,
because it doesn't matter what star these players are. No offense, but in basketball, Adam Woodbury was a 4-star, highly recruit.
Right.
And he's just kind of there.
Well, and here's the other thing, too, that I wish I would have known that, and I may still have to tweet back at him because now it's pissing me off. I believe in the Super Bowl last year, there was more 2-star players playing than 4 and 5-star players playing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to me, it doesn't matter as long and as much as I hate Millen, he made some good points. Like the coaches recognize who will fit and what, and if they're, and he had talked about Greg Davis saying, I'd come in one year and we would recruit a guy and we'd recruit him as a
who are you talking about?
2 years later,
who are you talking about?
It's like, huh?
Who's saying this?
Millen.
Oh, Matt Millen. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was talking to Greg Davis, and Greg Davis would say, we would recruit a guy as a tight end or as a quarterback or as an athlete, and then 2 years later on my starting line, it's like, where did this guy come from? And then you look back and you're like, oh, yeah, we recruited him as a quarterback, but now he's all Big Ten offensive lineman, first-round pick. Not many coaches can do that.
No.
And so for that to have an excuse, then what's the excuse with all the pros? I mean, they're like top 3 in the country in the Kirk Ferentz era of people turning pro.
Right.
So what if it's a 2-star or a 3-star or what, a 1-star? I don't care as long as they're good. Certainly, you'd want like that Piersbacher that chose at Alabama.
Yeah.
But you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if he's just a middle of the road offensive line, and then the guy we get in the same recruiting class who's a 1-star that was a tight end all of a sudden is one of the top tackles in the country.
Well, you got Josie Jewell from Decorah, Iowa, and he's going to end up playing in the pros.
Yeah, he's only at redshirt sophomore, right?
Yeah. The guy's
so
a stud.
Sit here and I mean they can go and I mean he will be in the NFL. Look at Morris, equipment manager kid.
Morris, yeah.
He's in the NFL. He's playing.
It's pretty bad. I mean, for him to say stupid stuff like that, it's almost insane. And he probably wouldn't let an Iowa fan on to defend that. Would be my guess. Because that's just insane.
Right.
If you want to say Iowa hasn't played,
Clark?
you can't say Iowa's strength of schedule as a whole hasn't been good because they've beaten 2 top 25 teams on the road. Nobody else in the top 8 has done that. And then they haven't had a bad loss, which Notre Dame has and Alabama has. So you can't say that. Now, if you want to say have they beat a top 10 type team, no, they haven't done that. But how many of them have?
Well, right. And he can't argue because he said, well, LSU shouldn't have been in there. They were fake. Okay, well, then you just discredited Alabama's schedule.
Right.
So you can't – I mean, his whole argument, and yeah, I think you're right. It has to do with the ratings because he's getting a lot of responses from the Iowa fans. But he's an idiot. And I don't know how he – I don't know how – I don't get his arguments. I just don't get it. I don't know how he can argue that.
I don't think he has one, and I think he knows he doesn't have one, so that's why he's changing it all the time. I think he just knows he needs ratings.
Yeah, because then when he ended it, he was like, oh, Ohio State, Alabama, USC, Texas, and then Iowa. Oh, what does that sound like? That just doesn't sound – well, it's football, and they're in the Big Ten, and they play a professional-style game. They have one of the best quarterbacks in the country. You throw out all the stats, you can look at C.J. Beathard, and this guy could be a pro. Period, the end. And I don't care what quarterback you put him up with. So what if the Alabama quarterback has some hot girlfriend? That guy's riding the bench. I don't care what. Beathard is a heck of a quarterback. And I know there's an article today about All Big Ten. He should be an All Big Ten. First team All Big Ten quarterback.
Right.
Cook, no. I don't care. Throw away the staff of Indiana's QB. No. No one has the guts and the all-around game that Beathard has in the Big Ten, period, the end, and not even anyone from Ohio State, because those two-headed monsters are stupid. Right. They're dumb. And I think I would rather play Ohio State in the Big Ten championship because I know Iowa, it would become a Wisconsin-Iowa game.
Oh, absolutely.
Ohio State's defense is tough, but their offense doesn't scare me. Our running backs, we have depth at running back. Their two-headed quarterbacks, they're stupid. I think they're mentally incapable of playing that position.
And just a quick to take a step back here, the Seahawks starting lineup had an average rating, star rating of 2.4, while the Patriots had an average star rating of 2.3.
Right.
Isn't that funny?
You know who the Chicago Bears are? The New England Patriots of college football. Not record-wise, but how they get their players.
You mean the Iowa Hawkeyes?
Yeah. What did I say?
You said Chicago Bears.
Oh, yeah, the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Yeah. No, I agree.
His parents is from the Belichick tree. I mean, he went from Hayden Fry to Belichick.
Now, and
that's how they did it.
I think the thing that gets them in trouble, and I've said this on here before because I want to make sure that people don't think I'm being a hypocrite here. I think where it gets them in trouble, not getting more, not even 5 stars, but 4 stars, is the fact that they don't always have the depth, which is why you have a year like this once every 5 or 6 years, or you'll go a 6-year span and 3 of them are really good and then 3 of them are average at best, because you can't get those guys every single time and turn them out year after year. You can get 5 or 6 of them in your whole program, and you can do it, and you can churn out the draft picks like that, but you can't get it so that it's like saying you're going to play the NBA with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, and then me, you, and Dan Fisher. You know what I mean? When there's no, I think that's where you get it. Where the 4 and 5 stars come in is not necessarily always the starters. It's the depth. It's the who comes in if somebody gets hurt, and a big probably the biggest spot we see it this year is with Giroux being out. Since Giroux's been out, I mean, the pass rush has been a lot less. They haven't hit the quarterback nearly as much. I don't think that Leidner was hit maybe 3 times the other day.
Yeah, Minnesota, they stacked their line though. They're playing 2 tight ends off their tackles.
Right. So it's not like it's a big deal. It's not like it's a massive deal, but you don't have that 4-star guy. I mean, you got a 230-pound Parker Hesse behind it. You don't have a 4-star recruit behind like Alabama would or Ohio State would. And I think that's where you get in trouble if you're Iowa. Is times like that.
And this is why I'm comfortable with Nebraska, is because they do play more of a wide open offense, and they're not going to have that extra 2 tight ends in there to block. Whereas Minnesota is more of a running team, and for some odd reason, Indiana decided to play that. They certainly got away from their game against Iowa. I think if I was an Indiana fan, I would have said that was just a bad coached game for Indiana. But for Minnesota, that's their style of play. So they kind of play straight up like the Hawkeyes. And I think with the 2 tight end set, that exposed the Hot injury. But I think with Nebraska, where they spread it out a little bit, I think that's going to help Iowa a little bit more.
Right.
Getting to the quarterback.
And I think the thing that's helped Iowa this year, and I always remember thinking this back in 2009 when you had Tarpanian and those guys, and I think these linebackers are very similar. I think the thing that helps these guys is the fact that they can all cover wide receivers. I mean, these linebackers are fast enough that they can cover.
Yeah, hey, before we continue on, if anyone wants to join in on the discussion, give us a call, 309-524-5558, 309-524-5558. We'd like to hear your opinions. But going back to Iowa there, I mean, you saw Indiana, they almost upset Michigan. I think the West gets a little bad rap, a little too much of a bad rap. I think they're better than what people think. And obviously, you could tell the 2 different styles with the conferences. And say Michigan State belongs more in the West, and Nebraska belongs more in the East,
yes,
as far as offense styles go. But they're 2 different styles, and I think the West gets a bad rap just because of how Iowa's getting a bad rap from some of these idiots out there like Hurd, because they're not flashy football.
Well, and I wrote an article today, and again, we talked about this a few weeks ago. I don't want to hear new Kirk, old Kirk crap.
No.
It's the same guy.
Yep.
He has not changed. Okay, he went for a couple of 4th downs. I don't care. He's the same guy.
Done that before.
Yes, he's the same guy. They did. I started looking at it today because a few weeks ago when they played Indiana, and people want to talk about Iowa's not flashy and blah 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 blah. Well, in the first half this year, Iowa has thrown the ball. Where do I have it written down here? Iowa's thrown the ball 180 times in the first half this year. And they've completed 111, 61% for 1,426 yards. In the second half of games, remember, they threw the ball 180 times in the first half. In the second half of games, they've thrown the ball 93 times.
You're right. And, actually, if you look at yardage, they're split down the middle almost.
Well, they're split down.
Running and passing.
Right. But what my point is Iowa gets a lead in the second half, and it really doesn't make a difference how big the lead is. And this is something that it could come back to bite them at some point, but it doesn't make a difference how big the lead is. They put the ball in the deep freeze. When you throw the ball 180 times in the first half and 93 in the second half, That's what all you're doing. You weren't trying to do anything else. And the reason they don't end up blowing out some of these teams, they could have won this weekend's game by 35 points. They could have won Indiana by 30 points. They could have beat Maryland by 30 points. But they get to the middle of the third quarter, and they're up by 7 to 10 points, and they put the ball in the deep freeze. And the only way, and the reason they blew out Northwestern was because Northwestern made some mistakes then. They threw some interceptions. They fumbled some kick. They've made some special teams errors. That's the reason they ended up blowing out Northwestern. Same with North Texas. They could, if Ferentz would. This is where if you want to talk new Ferentz, this is why there is no such thing. Throw that ball into the fourth quarter when you're only up 7 to 10 points, 12 to 13 points. To me, even 14 points. You're 2 scores. 2 scores is nothing. You can get 2 scores in the shake of a lamb's tail. So that's not a big deal. If you're going to be up over 2 scores and then you're throwing the ball, then you're new Kirk. But right now he won't even do it at that 10 or 7 to 10 point range. He gets up more than 1 score and he's running the football.
Yeah, he wants to eat the clock, get the game over with. Let's go.
Right.
Let's do these long drives.
And that's not sexy for the national media because they don't pay attention to that. When you start looking at this week, Iowa threw the ball twice in the third quarter and ran it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So they threw it twice and ran it 9 times. Then in the fourth quarter, they threw it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times and ran it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 times.
Right.
So they threw the ball a total of 7 times in the second half against Minnesota. And ran it, what did I say? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 22. So a third of the time, a quarter of the time, they threw the ball. And there was probably a couple in there that he dropped back and he ran with. So, okay, take that down in less than a third of the time you're throwing the ball. A Big Ten defense is going to know this. I'm not the smartest person in the world by any stretch. And if I can figure this out, opposing defenses have these same stats. And they're going to put everybody up in the box, and they're going to make it almost impossible to score. Almost impossible, which is why they've gone through 4 running backs this year.
Well, and Iowa's defense is all about taking away the big play.
Right.
So now your opponent's drives are taking, if they're going to drive the score, are taking 6, 7, 8 minutes off the clock themselves. You're looking at half a quarter, and boom, that's it. And that's why when Iowa has the lead, they want to do their long drives. Yeah, of course they want to score, but we're going to take our time doing it. And then when we do score and you get the ball back, we're going to make sure you have to take your time in doing it. And Northwestern didn't take their time, and look what happened.
Right.
And I think a team like Indiana saw that, so they started to play a little bit down. And then they, play a little bit more. It just sucks you in.
Right.
And that's just, and that happened with Wisconsin. I mean, that just became, okay, our offense is scoring, we can't let them score, and that's what it came down to.
I think the worst thing I've seen Iowa do this year was let Minnesota go down and score that ball in like 30 seconds, 45 seconds.
Oh, that was bad.
That was atrocious.
Yeah, that was bad. Look, their defense I wasn't, too impressed with this week, but they got time to short up. Look, you're going to have some of those games. I mean, can't complain too much. They're 10-0.
No.
Win tomorrow, and they're in the Big Ten championship.
Well, or if they win Saturday, not tomorrow.
Or Saturday. Whatever. It's been a long week, and it's only Monday.
Yeah. No, I agree, and that's my whole point here. Is I'm not complaining. There are times I wish, and my question is, you face an Alabama, Ohio State, you get to Nebraska, and you have to do it. I don't think just strictly running the ball in the second half is going to work. I think they're going to have to throw the ball a little bit more in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends. I mean, I think Ferentz is a little bit. He kind of goes with the flow of the game, and I would hope some of these offenses out there that have a little bit more giddy up than a Minnesota or whatnot, that they would play a little bit more aggressively. But it'll be interesting. It's just, hey, let's win next week. We're in the Big Ten championship game. Perfect, not bad.
Yeah.
Like it.
No, and that's the thing is they don't care if they win by 7 points, 3 points, 2 points, 1 point. They just want to win. And it causes my blood pressure to go up sometimes when they don't do more. But Ferentz doesn't give a frog's fat ass about my blood pressure, so he just wants to win.
No. I think the only thing you can say about new Kirk Ferentz is the recruiting part of it. He changed things up. Then he changed how, he did as far as practices and how he was going to coach his players.
Yeah.
As far as game day, I don't think his plan has changed one iota.
You know what? I agree. The only thing I'll disagree with you on is the recruiting aspect, and I think we talked about it before too, was, he got all his commits earlier, but they're the same commits. They're all still 3 stars.
No, I know, but, I mean, just the approach, how they're going to do it is different.
Right. It'll be
not necessarily the starage of a player, but I think how they started doing a little bit more technology with it.
Yeah.
They hired a graphics people. They hired this so he changed.
And it could end up being something that pays off next season.
Oh, for sure.
And I know they've already got a 4-star defensive lineman from Iowa who's already committed to Iowa for next year. Hey, was it just me or did LaShawn Daniels look like a pro running back on Sunday or Saturday?
Oh, he did, and if you look at his stats, he did.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, he looked like a pro running back. I mean, he looked like a surefire pro running back. You could tell.
Yeah.
You could tell he was feeling healthy.
Yeah, and it's going to be. It's going to be a good. It's good to have that depth because you've got 2 big guys at running back and you got 2 fast, shifty guys at running back, and
right.
And maybe Daniel's style of running the football won't work out against Ohio State, and Iowa needs to get faster.
Right.
And so, now you've got Wadley. Now, Wadley was held back. I'm sure he's a little dinged up, but you still have Kanzeri, and I'm sure he's still dinged up. But as they start to get healthy like Daniels did, that's a good compliment. And I think it was nice to see Beathard. I was a little bit nervous every time he took off and ran the ball, but he looked a lot healthier than he had in the past.
He did huge. He looked so much healthier until about halfway through the fourth quarter. Then he
got smoked.
Well, he
hit helmet to the hip.
Yeah, he could be down again this week a little bit. I didn't realize when Beathard and Wiegers were standing right next to each other. I didn't realize how big Wiegers was.
Me neither.
He was quite a bit taller than what Beathard is.
Yeah, I don't know. We got to wait and see how in a couple of years how he handles it, but
he's a big dude. All I could think when he came into the game was, "Oh my God, do not fumble the snap."
I know. I was thinking the whole time. I'm like, something's going to happen here. Obviously, Ferentz is absolutely not going to let him throw the football. But I was looking at the offensive lineman going, this is the moment where offensive lineman will step on his foot.
Yes.
And he'll do something to try to hand the ball off, and it'll just go wrong. And I was the same way. I was waiting for that trip, for that mess. But
well, yeah, I was waiting for something bad to happen. But here's my
I wouldn't mind seeing the Bears draft him next year. after next year.
Draft who?
Beathard.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Here's my question.
Not like a first rounder, I mean, but, draft him, see what he's got.
Yeah. Here's my question is, and I said it when Daniels ran in. Should he have stopped at like the 5 and gone down?
I thought the same thing. At first I yelled, just drop. And then I said, you know what, screw it, just score.
Yeah.
Because I didn't, in my wildest dreams, think that they would march the whole length of the football field in 30 seconds.
That was nuts.
And then after they did that, I thought he should have just dropped.
Yeah. I was saying the same thing, too. Fall down, and all you got to do is snap the ball and you win the game. Because they didn't have any timeouts left. Because what is it? Is it 25 or how long is it you have? 25? Is it just 25?
30. I think it's 30.
So first down, you would have been at 2. You'd have been done by the time you ran another play. It would have been down to a minute 30 at first down. So and then you would have just won the game because you would be able to run them all off.
Now, it would have been a big deal if Iowa wouldn't have let Minnesota try. But and I was thinking about this, and I understand the crowd noise is different when you're on defense as opposed to offense. But they kept, through that whole drive, the whole crowd, was spelling out Iowa, and I'm thinking, shut up. I don't think these defensive players are paying attention to what the hell's really going on here.
Yeah.
It was like first down. I'm like, damn. And then first down. I'm like, what the hell? And then they scored, and I thought, oh, great. And this is perfect. The whole crowd's spelling out Iowa. They score. Onside kick comes. Something will happen. They'll get it. Hail Mary, game over.
Yeah. I was expecting it. But hey, the football wasn't the only thing this weekend. You had the wrestling meet. I'm not a wrestling fan. But 42,000 people at Kinnick Stadium, that made huge news over the weekend.
Well, that was great for wrestling as a whole.
Yeah.
And you beat, depending on what poll you're looking at, the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah.
And it could have been much better if, and it gives me another reason to hate Iowa State even more on my hate list, for blowing that game against OSU.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because then I could finally say, there, you shut your mouth because part of Hawkeye's soft schedule is playing at Iowa State, and we beat them, but Oklahoma State couldn't.
Right.
But then Iowa State blew it, and I thought, yep, here's another reason why I hate you guys.
Yeah, they're just not good at football. But again, we talked about it last week, I think, a little bit, is that was a massive trap game for Oklahoma State. Massive trap game. Because they came off playing TCU, and then they've got Baylor and Oklahoma the following 2 weeks.
Well, they were thinking in the back of their mind, they don't show up well in Iowa State. So, but whatever, they blew it. And then you have Hawkeye basketball.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't get to see all of the game on Friday night, but I watched the entire game yesterday, and they looked pretty damn good.
Yeah, I watched a little. Well, no, I think I caught. Well, we were out and about, but they didn't get as good as I wanted them to on Friday, and then I was very happy how they showed up on Sunday.
Yeah, I thought they looked good. I mean, I had seen bits and pieces of the exhibition games, and obviously they lost to South Dakota, and they didn't look good, and he didn't get any of the freshmen in. And when the freshmen were in yesterday, they played really well.
Wagner's going to be a heck of a kid.
Wagner's a stud.
Yeah, I think Fleming will be good.
You know what, though? I was telling my brother that of the freshmen the 3 freshmen who are going to play, the 3 true freshmen that are going to play him, Williams, and Wagner, Williams, and Fleming. Fleming's the one I like the least.
Yeah, you never liked Fleming though from the get-go.
Well, I just don't think he's
People. It's because he's white.
No, it's not it. It's not it. It's a matter of the fact that he's not athletic enough to blow by somebody, and he's not a shooter. So what is he?
I think his shot, he will become a shooter, but I like his aggressiveness to the basketball. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I think, like this last game, he was overly aggressive with it, and he was kind of playing a little out of control with it.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to add a little spark to the lineup going in there. No, not as much as Wagner. And I'm kind of opposite with you. Right now, I don't know about Williams.
I like Williams.
I'm not sold yet.
I like Williams because I think he's got a better shooting stroke than what Fleming has. I think he's got a much better shooting stroke than what Fleming has. I think that's first and foremost. And I think he's a little bit quicker than what Fleming is. So those are the two reasons I like Williams a little bit better. And I hope I'm wrong. People wanted to compare Fleming to Matt Gatens. I think Matt Gatens was a better athlete and he was a better shooter. Now, I think it took Gatens a couple years to become a better shooter. But Matt Gatens would also go down the lane and dunk on you, too. And I don't think Fleming's got that kind of hops.
Yeah, I don't know. I was impressed. And, the one other thing that I like is Dale Jones and his outside shooting.
Oh, yeah, that's huge. Well,
I think that's going to be big.
I think that's going to be massive. And I think he's their best pure shooter. He looks like every time he shoots, it's going in.
Yeah. I think with Wagner, you find a guy that is nitty-gritty. He's going to get that rebound because Woodbury still looks awkward as hell.
Yeah, he's not good at basketball. He's not good at basketball in long stretches. If you can keep him short stretches out there, that's one thing. Ewell looked better yesterday. He put on a ton of weight in the offseason. Holy cow. I don't know that I've ever seen a basketball player put on that much weight in one season.
Are you talking about Ewell?
Yeah.
Yeah, he put on 25 pounds, they said.
It looks like he put on 25 pounds. Sometimes they say that about people. And
can't find it.
Yeah, you don't know where they put it on at.
You could see it on him.
Yeah, that was huge.
Good.
Well, I agree. He needed
his outside shots pretty well too yesterday, which he didn't do very good. Now again, he was a freshman, so I'm not going to rag on him too much, but he struggled last year. He played a good game. Hey, they got Marquette Thursday, and I know Marquette's not, what Marquette used to be.
Right.
But it's good to have that matchup early in the season. The Hawkeyes have a pretty tough schedule.
They got a very tough schedule.
Colin Hurd, check out that Hawkeye schedule. He probably didn't even follow basketball.
No, he's a douchebag. The other guy who I've been impressed with a little bit is Ellingson, and I didn't think I would be.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide if he's going to be my Troy Skinner or my McCausland kid.
No, he's better. He's a better. What I liked about it was, and I've seen it already a couple times, is people want to compare him to Oglesby. Well, I don't think he's quite as tall as Oglesby was, but he does a good job of finishing at the basket. And it's not because he's got great jumping ability. I think it's just because he does a great job of cutting. He does a great job of moving without the ball. I think he scored 3 or 4 times going to the basket yesterday off of good sharp cuts, and he knows how to use picks.
Hey, and they did this without Jock either.
Yeah. Well, Jock better watch out because they played really well without him. That was by far the best they've played. I think the problem with Jock sometimes is the ball sits in his hands.
Yeah, sometimes I think he forces shots.
And he's not amazing. Yeah, and he's not an amazing athlete by any stretch either.
you know. So, have you heard? Is he going to be coming back?
Yeah, he'll be back. They said he could have played yesterday if they would have needed him, but I think they knew going in. They knew going into Thursday there was no need to really to waste it on that team. That team was bad. I mean, let's be honest, that team was really bad.
But that's how you need to win with those type of teams,
right.
though.
Right, they did what they were supposed to do. They did exactly what they were supposed to do.
I mean, they came out with 22-2 lead.
Yeah, it was insane. It was nuts. That team would have beaten both, or that team would have lost to both exhibition teams they played.
Oh yeah. I mean, No, they're, so they got Marquette, and then they got Dayton.
Yeah, down in Orlando.
Yeah,
I think,
Thanksgiving
Day.
Gosh, I mean, look at this, Mike. We've got Chicago Bears on Thanksgiving, Iowa Hawkeyes versus Dayton on Thanksgiving.
What time is the basketball game Thanksgiving?
8:00.
And what time is the Bears?
I think there's a noon game.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, because I think they'll usually play Dallas at the 3.
No, I think they're a night game because the day games are.
Yeah, they are night games because they're retiring Barb's jersey.
Yeah, because the day games are the crazy ones. Detroit and Dallas.
So you'll have Iowa and Chicago Thanksgiving night, and then you got Iowa, Nebraska, which hopefully at that point, I mean, that'll keep Iowa undefeated, and then, in my opinion, playoffs. If they're going to make it to the college football playoff, then all they got to do is win that championship game.
Yeah, I think that will be.
It was exciting week.
I know it was a huge weekend, and now we've got we look at the next 2 weeks here. My goodness gracious, there's a lot going on. We might have to kick up another show here at some point in time. There's so much going on.
Well, yeah, because they could play Marquette, Dayton, and then probably the winner of. Well, they'll play the winner of Notre Dame and Monmouth, and then after that they've got Florida State in the Big Ten ACC Challenge. So the Hawks got a tough little stretch coming up here to end November.
Oh, well, and that's what McCaffrey said, was that's the reason he played that really good team, that really good D2 team in the exhibition, because he knew he had a tough schedule coming out. He knew it was a real tough schedule coming out, and he ended up wanting that game because he knew that wasn't going to count against the schedule. And he wanted to see how his guys would do.
Yeah, and then after that, they got Western Illinois and Iowa State, and it's going to get those. I think those freshmen are going to learn right away with hey, this is big time basketball, and I think it's going to help them for the Big Ten schedule, coming up at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, I look at it and I think, okay, they're going to lose to Iowa State. I think if they can get past Dayton in the first round, I think playing Notre Dame will be a good game. I think they have a chance to beat Florida State, especially since it's at home. So Iowa State's the only one that you look at and go, okay, they're not going to win that one. But other than that, I think they can at least be in all the other games. Let's see. What's the date today? 16th? Oh, tomorrow. It's at noon tomorrow. Dayton plays Alabama. They got that whole 24 hours of basketball thing going on ESPN. I think it's 7 o'clock in the morning, Northern Iowa plays. And then at noon, I know it looks like Dayton and Alabama play each other in Dayton. So we'll have to watch that one and see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be. I like it.
I do too.
I like
I do too. I think it's a good schedule. I think it's going to test them early, and they need it. Before yesterday's game, I was looking at it going, "Oh my God, this is going to be a long season." I didn't realize how bad it was going to be not having Olshaney and White. And the thing that bothered me was watching some of it on Friday night. They looked miserable out on the basketball floor. They looked absolutely miserable. I watched Dom Ewell, and Ewell looked like he wanted nothing to do with being there.
Right.
But then I saw, and they really didn't look the happiest group yesterday either. It's probably just me being me, but at least they were getting up and down the floor. They were shooting three-pointers. I think you're right. I think Dale Jones makes a huge difference right now, a huge difference. I mean, I think he's by far their best shooter. Every time he shoots, I think it's going in. But then you start looking at the rest of the area. Iowa State won handily on Friday night. I watched most of that game, or Friday afternoon, I should say, against Colorado. Actually, they didn't look that great, to be quite honest. They really didn't look great. They ended up pulling away midway through the second half against.
How's their style? Can you tell if it's different than what Hoiberg runs?
What? It's not quite as up and down, I would say. Not quite as freewheeling, but they play a little bit better defense, though, too, which I think that they probably needed. Because I think that was the reason they didn't do as well last. I thought all along, I even wrote about it, they could win the national title or they could go out in the first round, because if they get hot, they can beat anybody, but they can also lose to anybody if they're not shooting well.
Right.
So that was about the same. But then Illinois.
Now, let me ask you this. If they slow it down a little bit, do you think that will affect them getting into a rhythm? Are they still the type of team that they need to feel hot to stay hot? And would the slowing down of their play affect that rhythm?
No, I think if they get a chance to run, they're going to run. I just don't. I think with Hoiberg, I think he was just allowing them to run and just chuck up the first 3-point shot that they got. Well, I don't think this guy is allowing that. I think this guy, Prom, is saying, okay, get up and down the floor and you can, and let's take the first good shot we get. We're not just chucking up anything, though. And I think he's emphasizing defense a lot more, which I think for them is better in the long run. That's my opinion. I think it's much, much better in the long run for them that they're slowing it down just a little bit. They don't need to go crazy with it. Or do anything silly, but just slow it down just a little bit.
How about Chris Bryant?
Yeah, Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
Rookie of the Year. That not surprising by any stretch of the imagination.
Is he going to turn into Jerome Walton?
No, I don't think so.
Remember Jerome Walton?
What's your thoughts though on you keep hearing these rumors that the Cubs would trade Soler and or Bryant or Baez?
Well, I don't know if I like that yet. I like Soler.
I do too.
I like him more than Baez. I want to see what Baez does this year look at last year. His sister died. He had a broken thumb. But he started to develop more patience at the plate.
Right.
Compared to what he was before. He still struck out a lot, but compared to what he was at, it was night and day. I still want to see what he can do. And I don't know, and I know the stipulation was if the Cubs explored the trade and have talked to like half the teams in the league about it, they're not actively trading them. And the request is, now this is what I read, the request is the player has to be of equal age, equal talent.
Right. Which, how the hell are you going to do that?
So that tells me It tells me that the trade will probably not happen at this point.
It's kind of my thought too.
Because you're basically saying, I mean, we want the same thing, just a different position. Probably pitcher would be my guess.
Yes, that's what they want.
And it has to be equal age for the controllable years and equal talent. So you're talking top of the line pitchers, and I don't know if many teams will do that.
So you're talking somebody from the Mets. The Mets aren't going to get rid of those guys. Or
Nope.
You're talking, would you do Baez? Who?
One of the two guys from the White Sox.
Yes, which they're not going to trade Sale, but would they trade?
No, I'm not even talking Sale. I'm talking like they're two young dudes.
I'm not Rodon's the one I like. I'm not a big Quintana fan. I wouldn't.
No, I'm not talking. Who's the guy that they drafted last year?
Oh, you're talking about the kid from Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Yeah, big righty. But he's got to spend a little more time in the minors first to know if he's any good. He hasn't spent nearly enough time there to know if he's any good.
Yeah, but I think that's what the Cubs are looking for, though, is that type. But that's why I don't think a trade's going to happen.
No, I don't think so either. Now, let me ask you this. Would you do Baez and Soler for Tyson Ross and Justin Upton?
No.
You got Upton, who's could play some center field.
Mm-hmm.
And you got Tyson Ross, who I think would be a very, very good pitcher for the Cubs, but he's only got 1 year left on his contract.
Yeah, and
it would probably
he was pitching in a friendly ballpark.
Right.
Are you saying trade both of them for those two straight up?
Yeah, I've heard a little bit of rumor
no
like
way.
that. I've heard a little bit of rumor like that.
I could see maybe Baez and maybe like maybe a McKinney. I would do that, but not. I don't want to give up. Or if it's Soler and a McKinney, I don't want to give up both of those two for those two. No.
Well, and I think you'd have to go. I think if you're going to get both of them, I think you'd have to go Baez, McKinney, and at least one or two others.
And then those guys will be lower level. I'm
Yeah.
fine with that. I don't want to get those two guys up because, I still want Soler's power in there. I don't know what the situation with Castro is. And the Padres are going to get desperate eventually with Tyson Ross anyways because he's only got the year left.
Well, exactly. Well, and
I don't think you can snap trade that up real quick.
No, I agree, and I think to your point too is the Cubs shouldn't have to give up that second big time prospect because you could lose Ross after 1 year. Plus, you're taking a lot of money off their hands with Upton.
Right.
But Upton had a good year last year.
He did. He's a good player, but I don't want to give up. I mean, those are two stud guys. Baez and Soler are still two stud guys, and right now, when people look at the Cubs lineup and see all of those guys put together, the first thought that comes to their mind is, shit. I mean, that's a good lineup.
But look at.
I don't know if I could trade both of those for that. I can't.
But look at what Upton did this year. I mean, you'd be getting better for 1 year, I think, at least, because Upton's still only 27. He'd be playing in Chicago, and this year he had 68 walks, 19 stolen bases, 81 RBIs, 26 home runs.
Yeah, but that's fine. I'm fine with Upton, but I don't want to give up both for Upton and Ross. I think that's a little too desperate.
Now the downside to Upton is he struck out also 159 times, but I bet you he wouldn't strike out that many times in Chicago's lineup.
Yeah, I couldn't go. I couldn't do Soler Baez for those two. I wouldn't want to.
Well, what I would do is I would go Baez. I would go Baez, McKinney, And then, but if you do that, if you get rid of Soler and then you get rid of McKinney, then you're saying Schwarber, you're our left fielder for the foreseeable future.
Which I'm fine with.
Yeah. Because
I'm fine with Schwarber. I'm fine with Schwarber. He's played a lot of outfield in the minors. I mean, when I saw him down here at Donald, Modern Woodman, whatever.
It's John Donald.
It's John Donald. He was playing outfield that day.
Yeah,
I think he's fine with it. I think he understands the situation at this point.
I think
I don't.
I think next year in Chicago, I think Upton would hit over 30 home runs, at least. So you'd look at your outfield. If you had your outfield was Soler in right, Upton in center, and Schwarber in left, your three outfielders, at least your center fielder and your left fielder, are going to hit over 30 home runs. Your right fielder is going to hit over 20 home runs. Then your third baseman's going to hit 30 home runs. Your first baseman's going to hit 30 home runs. And then you're going to have your shortstop and your second baseman both hit between 15 and 20. And then if your catcher is still Montero, he's going to hit between 15 and 20.
I look at it this way. If they get rid of Baez, Castro will be your second baseman this year until that young kid's ready.
Torres. Yeah. No, I agree. And he's not going to be ready. He's not going to be ready for a couple of years at least.
Yeah, I think right now Castro I think he's finally hit I think he's at a comfort level now.
Well, and I think he knows, hey, these guys aren't jacking around. They want to win. And
right.
I will be put on the bench if I don't play well.
Right. And I'm fine with it. If we get the old Castro back, okay, that's good. I'd rather trade Baez before I trade Soler.
Yeah, I think so too.
Soler is going to be. I've always thought, and now that Schwarber just came on like a monster, I knew Schwarber was going to be good, but I didn't think he would have half the season that he had. I mean, that guy's just.
Right.
Whew, that's just. It's crazy talk, and at first I thought, maybe Soler would be the best of the bunch, and then I kind of was like, okay, it's got to be Bryant, but wow, Schwarber. I mean, the guy's a beast.
Right.
And I remember, I don't know where I saw it, but people were saying, oh, see, the Cubs are looking to trade Schwarber. I'd be like, I would not trust Theo's thinking at that point. There was no way they're going to trade Schwarber, Rizzo, Russell. I think those are your core three. I think Soler could be part of it if he stays healthy.
Right. Now,
and I like him. I like him better than Baez. I just do.
I agree.
I think, to me, Baez is a little too flighty. I don't know, I guess. I don't know what the best way to put it is, but I'd rather get rid of him. If the Cubs were going to trade one of them, get rid of him. Keep Soler. I can't. I mean, that's two good corner outfielders if you keep Soler.
Right.
Your infield is fine. And I understand Baez's defense is pretty good. Sure, he struggled in the playoffs a little bit. But, geez, I mean, it's the first time these guys have – I mean, the Cubs went from the rookies to one series away from the World Series. I mean, you got to be kidding me.
Now, here's the other thing. Here's the other thing that I don't think you can discount either is what if you took Baez and put him in center?
I think he'd be fine out there.
I think he's good enough an athlete to do it.
He is. He's fast. He's got a good glove. It's just a matter of getting used to it out there.
So okay, let's say this. You put him in center. Then would you trade Castro and bring in like a Gordon. I know he's been playing left field for a few years now, but he used to do it. But you still need a leadoff man.
Yeah, you do. You do. I mean, I would be fine with that because knowing that you have Torres waiting, he's just about ready to come up.
Well, I think he's a couple years away.
I think he's ready. And then you got
2018. He didn't play above double. He only played like 10 games in high single A this year.
Yeah.
He's going to start next year in high single A. And then maybe go up to double A at some point during the season if he's doing well. But he's only 18 years old. I mean, even if he comes up in 2 years, he comes up when he's 20. That's how good this kid's going to be.
He's going to be great.
Yeah. Yeah, so
I just don't want to get – I don't know. I'm stuck with Soler. I'll be disappointed this offseason unless the Cubs are blown away if they trade Soler. The return has to be great, not only for now but for the future. Because right now, you've got a 22, 23-year-old right fielder who's batting around 268. He's got the power. It's only going to get better. Plate discipline has come around finally. I don't think you want to give up on him too quickly.
I wouldn't either. I think that unless it brings to me, it's got to bring an all-star caliber player in return. Like, to me, Tyson Ross isn't all-star caliber at this point. Does he have the potential? Possibly. I don't know. I don't really remember the guy, to be quite honest. I know he's got good stats, but like you said, he's also in San Diego too. And one of us could go and pitch in San Diego, have an ERA under 4, I think.
Yeah, I think with Ross, he's going to be available. And if the Cubs need him at midseason and Oakland still has him, I mean, he's going to be available. I mean, last year, in 2014, 2.81 ERA, 31 games started, 33 games started this year, 326. So he's around there. For 2 years straight, he's around 200 innings, 195 in 2014, 196 in 2015. He had his worst year on walks. He's a good pitcher, yeah, but I think...
But he's not an all-star.
No. I don't think it's Soler good pitcher.
No. I agree. I agree.
I don't know.
100%.
There's something about Soler I want to keep. I want to see what he turns into.
I agree 100%. I would not either. I mean, to me, if you're going to trade Soler, you're getting like a Noah Syndergaard or Matt Harvey or something like that in return.
That's what it would have to be, and I think that's the point of that article that I read, was if we're trading these two guys, then we want equal talent, equal age in return, and you're talking a Syndergaard and something like that. And I don't think you might have a match somewhere out there. Maybe someone desperately wants that power, that young power hitter.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, the lineup with Rizzo, Bryant, Schwarber, Soler right there, right in the gut, that's a tough group to pitch to.
I agree.
And that group right there took you, 4 games from the World Series. You're 4 wins away of the World Series.
Right.
But the big problem for the Cubs was the pitching.
Now, here's an interesting name for you that the Mets could possibly deal. You remember Zach Wheeler?
Yeah.
He's coming off Tommy John surgery, which we all know isn't that big of a deal anymore. It's just going to limit your innings, especially that first year. But he's coming off Tommy John. He's only going to be 26. in his 2 years of his 23 and his 24-year-old year were both ERAs 3.42, 3.54, 11 wins when he was 24, 185 innings pitched, only 167 hits allowed, and 187 strikeouts, so more than a strikeout per inning pitched. Would you do that? I wonder if the Mets would do him for. I wonder if the Mets would do him for Baez straight up.
They might.
But again, if
they
you
need middle infielder, they're going to lose Murphy, and they would be improved with Baez. Hell, I think they'd be improved with Castro.
My only problem is with that scenario is how many innings can he pitch this year?
Right.
Yeah, that's my only. But
then
problem.
the Mets announced on Sunday that they're not shopping Wheeler.
What's that?
But the Mets just announced they're not shopping Wheeler.
No, that's not what I saw. It said they're not actively shopping Wheeler. So that's a big difference between they're not going to trade him. That means they're not going out to people, but if people call to them or go to them, they're going to listen.
You know, if the Cubs need to trade for a pitcher, float Baez and McKinney.
Right.
If you got to float someone, I don't know. Maybe you just look at Soler and he looks the part.
Right.
And he's doing what you would think he would do at this age. I mean,
it says, I'm reading an article here that just came out a couple hours ago. It says the Mets would be better served with Baez, blah, blah, blah. It says Castro would most likely cost the Mets Zach Wheeler, but Baez would certainly cost a lot more, and any deal would probably be given with Steven Matz, who's the left-hander, who they threw in Game 4. Would probably be given with Steven Matz and also include another top prospect like Brandon Nimmo or Gavin Giacchini. Never heard of either of those, but I've definitely heard of Steven Matz.
I mean, you got to remember, too, with Soler, I mean, look at the big game he had with the Cardinals. Big series he had.
Right. Right.
I mean, he was the best young player besides Schwarber.
Right.
That did anything. I mean, Bryant took a dump.
Yeah, he just had one big hit is all.
Yeah. And I'm fine with that. I mean, you expect that from rookies. I can't dog him. I mean, he's a freaking rookie.
Right.
And I couldn't dog Soler if he had. But Soler and Schwarber just kind of took it over.
Right. No, I agree.
And his salary is so cheap. Next year he makes 3.6. Next year in 2017, 3.6, and then 4.6, 4.6, 4.6. He's cheap right now.
Right. Who is this guy?
You know, and then he has the open market at the age of 28, where if he does good these next few years, I mean, he's going to get the big contract because he's only 28.
Who is this other guy? Giacchino. I don't know who Brandon Nimmo is, but I don't like his stats. This Giacchini's a shortstop. They don't need another shortstop. Well, hell, the guy's hitting .317. He only struck out 55 times this year in 109 games. 7 home runs. If I was the White Sox or the Mets, I'd just bring him up. Yeah, if I'm the Cubs too, I look at, because the White Sox need somebody so bad. I wouldn't be afraid to look at the White Sox. But it's going to start with Rodon. I can tell you that.
Well, Baez would be an improvement over anything they have.
Over Ramirez, for sure.
You know what name just floated out there recently?
Huh.
Remember Rich Hill?
Oh, yeah, the lefty. Yeah, I've seen him a few times. He had good stuff. But he went through a little bit of Ricky and Keel sort of thing. He couldn't throw the ball over the plate.
Yeah, he did good towards the end of September.
Yeah, he had good stuff. But is he a reliever now?
No, he was starting.
Oh, really? He had
Yeah,
good, I mean, he had some nasty stuff. I actually saw him pitch in person once.
Yeah, he. Okay, yeah, okay. Here it is. Hill signed a minor league deal with the Red Sox in August, this past August. And then he was brought up on September 8th. And then on the 13th, he started his first major league game in 6 years. And he only gave up one hit over 7 innings while striking out 10 batters and walking 1. And then on the 25th, he pitched a complete game 2-hitter while striking out 10 for the third consecutive time last year.
Hey, he had good stuff. He threw like 93, 94, and he had a hammer curveball.
Yeah.
I mean, he had an absolute hammer curveball. I remember that.
I mean, he's 35. You know, maybe you know he could be a depth guy. You know.
Well, maybe he could end up being Scott Kazmir.
Yeah, that's just crazy. I saw that a couple days ago, and I'm like, wow, Rich. I thought he was like totally gone, but he was like bouncing around those independent leagues.
Yeah, he learned how to pitch.
And I mean, you gotta give the guy credit.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 35, but you know, if you want depth, I mean, that's a depth.
No, I agree. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever.
I'm not considering him as a big-time, you know, replacement of the rotation type thing, but
he'd be my if he could be a number 5 for my team, I may consider that.
Right, it would have to be a 5 or kind of like that Travis Wood type,
right? A swing guy.
Yeah, you know, just kind of depth.
Well, I think we're, you know, clearly they need pitching, and they probably need 2 starters at minimum. But to get 2 starters, that means you're either trading Hamill or you're trading Hendricks, and you know they'd rather trade Hamill because that's getting rid of money. They don't want any more dead money out there. So that's one thing, and then the other thing that they have to do is they have to find a center fielder. Now, there's a part of me that also says, too, do you just put Almora out in center field? Because he is clearly the best defensive center fielder in the organization from the way it sounds. If he could just hit like Russell did this year, hit 230 and stick him in the 9-hole.
Right.
I mean, that's all you'd ask for out of him is just hit 230 and play and get in the 9-hole and play an amazing center field. If he can do that, because Russell's going to go from hitting 230, 240 this year to hitting about 270, 280 next year, I think.
Oh, he'll be much better.
So.
Yeah, he'll be much better. Yeah.
Well said.
I don't know. It'll be an interesting off season. You know, I don't know. You're looking. It's tough. I mean, if you're the Cubs, it's tough because you don't want. I mean, you're still on that plan. I mean, this year wasn't supposed to be till next year.
Well, that's why I don't give away the farm. I don't give away 2 of those guys. If you can get rid of Soler or Baez and get a surefire 1-2 type pitcher, then one that you're going to have for a while, then I'm okay with it. If not, then you don't do it.
Yeah, I don't want them to trade like Soler for a 30-year-old pitcher that might have a couple years left but might give you enough. I don't want that.
Well, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to make an Alfonso Soriano signing. And then you're hammered with that contract for a while.
That was a bad contract.
And I think St. Louis is kind of in that similar situation with Matt Holliday.
Oh, I think so too. St. Louis has got to make some moves here. Now, the one thing that St. Louis has going for them is they can now start to spend a lot of money because they got their new television contract kicking in, which is bringing them a lot of money.
Right.
So they're going to be major players from here on out. Major players.
And we'll see how that Cardinal way goes, right?
Right. Because it's easy to go the Cardinal way when you have to go the Cardinal way. It's easy to stray away from it when you got the money to stray away from it.
Yeah. Well, and then, you know, they've got Lance Lynn and you had your Carlos dude out last year. And,
well,
you know, Wayne, he's still coming off of that Achilles. He's going to be healthy, obviously, but
well, he's going to be on the north side of 30, though, too.
Right. That's what I was just going to say. It's another year, you know, on his age.
And they traded the one guy to Atlanta last year for Hayward.
Right. That was Shelby Miller.
Yeah, Shelby Miller. So
you know that
you can't bring them pitchers up every single time. And the other part of it though too is, you know, their pitchers last year at the end of the year were not doing well at all. So who's to say that they're going to be better automatically at the beginning of next season? Maybe the league figured them out. You know, they say it's a league of adjustments. Maybe the league adjusted to them.
Well, you know, the Cubs had a better record than St. Louis did from June on.
Right.
They just came out of the gate crazy.
Right.
And, I mean, they were up almost freaking 20 games by June, and then they kind of evened out a little bit. And, you know, it caught up to them.
Right.
But, you know, you got to look at it. St. Louis is hurting. Depends what they do in the offseason. Pittsburgh's not going to do much in the offseason because they're still a small market team. They still have talent there.
Right.
But, geez, 3 years in a row and you're playing in the wild card playoff game, the one game,
right,
and you've lost twice, that's a difficult pill to swallow. So they've got some things that they got to do, and they tried to bully the Cubs, and, you know, they were ticked off that they lost to a bunch of rookies.
Right. I thought they were pretty respectful after the game, but, yeah, they tried a little bit during the game.
Well, no, after the game they were fine, but...
Yeah. It'll be interesting, though. I think that I think to see how the Central shakes out. I mean, we know what the Cubs need. We'll see if the Cardinals go get what they need because they need quite a bit offensively. Or will they go? Will they try and sink all their money into David Price and maybe try and get two of those guys, thinking that they've still got Holiday left. You got Piscotty and Adams and who's the other one? Oh, Grichuk, who all came in and played well as rookies this year. And
Pat Adams.
Yeah, and Piscotty really did well against the Cubs.
No, they got a young, good guy in Piscotty. I mean, it's not like they're still going to compete for the Central for sure, but they're kind of in trouble a little bit. And Molina is getting old, and those years of catching are starting to get to him. And he's not the type. Okay, move him to first base, but he's in there for his defense. Period. The end. The guy can't run after he gets a base hit.
I just don't want the Cubs to deal away these guys and not get equal value back in return. That's my biggest fear. I don't want them to think that they can. I don't want them to try and just win the World Series next year. I want them to try and win it for the next 7 years. And I think that, and obviously you can't do that. And I've always said you want to win one, and I don't care about after that. But we've seen that happen before on the north side, and you can't just give yourself 1 year to win it. You got to give yourself multiple years to win it.
Well, and that's why I liked Hoyer's comment last week and then today. You know, I mean, his comments were, look, we might not even be close to the World Series next year. We're still in our rebuild phase. Our rebuild phase isn't complete.
Right.
I like that. So that means they're still on track. They're still trying to do their focus. They realize they need pitching, and they have the money to get some. I also, like today with the Soler and Baez rumor, we're listening. Of course, any team is going to listen. I don't care who you are and what player it is. But we want equal value, equal age, and it's a pitcher.
Right.
That tells me not many teams are going to do that, and that tells me they're not going to just trade them to get maybe an improvement now, but maybe not a couple, 2-3 years down the line type of thing.
Right.
And they've got the team to rebuild. Look, I mean, I can't complain too much. They're freaking 4 games from the World Series this year.
Right. No.
How nuts is that, you know?
No, I certainly wouldn't complain either. The only way I complain is if they trade these two guys and don't get equal value just to try and win it next year, because it just doesn't work out. What if John Lester gets hurt?
I like those comments.
Yeah, what if John Lester gets hurt? I'll tell you another thing too. I don't sign Jake Arrieta long term until you see how he comes out next year.
I agree with that. I'm fine with that.
If he comes out next year and pitches close to what he pitched this year, then I pull that sucker right out of the desk drawer on May 1st and give him that contract. But I want to make sure his last 2 starts weren't the beginning of something bad.
He pitched a lot last year.
Mm-hmm.
A lot.
Yep.
So I'm fine with it. You know, let's see how it goes. Now, I don't expect him to have – I mean, he was having the second half. He was rewriting history books. He was rewriting history books that were established before the 1900s.
Right.
We're pulling out stats going, they weren't even keeping track of this stat.
Right.
So I don't expect him to have that.
Right.
But
Right.
a number one.
Right. I agree.
If he can do a number one, then sign him.
No, just keep your ERA at below 3.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be 1 point whatever it was all season.
Right.
Just keep it below 3.
Yeah, because the second half was, what, 0.82?
Yeah, it was insane.
I mean, I don't expect that. I'm not looking for that. Any Cub fan who is now on the boards, Arrieta's been 2-1. I'm like, really? That's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
He just had a freaking knockout year last year. He couldn't. No one could explain it.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. So, well, should we start, or should we end the show there?
Yeah, let's end the show there. I do. We're creating basketball pages for all the high school teams. That should be done here pretty quick within this week. Those should be done and out there. We definitely want you to go to QCSportsinferno.com for that. Check out QC Sports Inferno on Twitter, on Facebook. Haven't been much on QC Sports Inferno Twitter. Today I was tweeting Terry Branstad to join the rest of the governors. So he was probably hating on me today. But we got a lot of good stuff coming up. We got the winter sports. Wanting to get back to announcing and providing you some basketball games.
Yeah, just a few week break here.
Yeah. So
starts here in a couple weeks.
Got the holidays coming up. A lot of excitement. Hawkeye basketball. The Hawkeyes are 10-0. Tomorrow we get to find out did they drop them. And hey, let me ask you that. Do you think they drop them?
Yes, I think they fall behind Oklahoma.
So you think Oklahoma would be the first one in, and then Iowa?
I will go back to 6th.
Go back to 6th?
That's my opinion.
You're probably right.
I'll be mad if that's the case.
Yep, they'll put them behind Oklahoma, even though Oklahoma lost to a shitty Texas team.
Yeah, a very bad Texas team.
Yes, that Iowa State beat 24-0.
Yeah, there'll be some anger there, but yeah, a lot of good things. Stay tuned to our website, qcsportsinferno.com. Check it out. Mike's doing a kick-ass job getting all the news updated all day long. So anytime you go there, there's something new every time you click on our site. So check that out. And we'll be back Wednesday at 6 o'clock to talk about probably the Hawkeye ranking, talk about the game on Thursday with Marquette and Iowa and basketball. We didn't even touch on Ronda Rousey getting her teeth knocked out, her jaw shattered.
That was kind of funny.
But other than that, I think we're good. You're listening to QC Sports Inferno presenting ZRadio.
Peace.